is Jenna and today I'm here to do my movie and television show wrap up for the month of November in 2020. November was NaNoWriMo month, so I was supposed to be spending most of the month writing, which I did do, but it meant that when it came time to reading, my brain went, haha, no, and so we ended up watching a lot of movies and television shows. Anyway, so the month of November we watched 6 TV shows and also not a single one of them was a rewatch. They were all new television shows, which weirded me out a little bit when I figured that out, but hey, not mad about it. We also watched 15 films and there were some rewatches in that. So as always, we will start with the television shows, and the first TV show that I watched this month was On My Block, seasons 1 to 3. This is the show that I pulled out from the tin for this month, and I mean, I really ended up enjoying it. So I overall gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. So for the first season, I didn't love the show to begin with. I found it sort of weird and not my style, not my kind of humor. But by the end of this season, I was really invested in these characters and in their stories. I really cared about them. The show, considering it was dealing with like really hard-hitting issues, was really funny, which I think is what makes the show what it is. When it came to season 2, I still wasn't like in love with the show. I still found it a little difficult in places, but I do really enjoy the way that it incorporates humor into the real world. And I loved Jasmine in this season, how she got a really expanded on role. I think she plays a really important part in that friendship group, and I did enjoy the season as a whole. And for season 3 was definitely the most enjoyable of the seasons for me, and I think that is because Jasmine did take on much more of a leadership role. She's definitely my favorite of the characters along with Jamal. I find them to be really funny. I find Montse and Caesar's storylines to be a little hard to watch at some points just because I find them so like irritating. Montse especially really irritates me at times, but it's still a great show. I love how they pull off all those stories, and the finale really punched me in the gut. Like, I was not expecting what happened to happen, but it makes total sense, and I just was sort of like, oh, is that it now? So I'm waiting to see if the show gets renewed, because I'm sort of like, they could end it there if they really wanted to, and everyone would just be ended and be like, that was really upsetting but really beautiful. Second TV show I watched this month was New Girl seasons 4 and 5. I gave this collectively a 4 out of 5 stars. For season 4, I really enjoyed this season. The show is really funny, the characters are great, and the plot lines are so much fun. It's just a typical sitcom, so I don't really know what else I can say about it. Season 5 was definitely much the same, although season 5 was interesting because they had Jess be missing for a number of episodes. I think she was gone for 6 or 7 episodes when Zooey Deschanel went on her maternity leave. So we had a couple of episodes where Jess wasn't there, and then we got Reagan, and I have to admit, I didn't really notice Jess's absence. I would have noticed Nick or Schmidt's absence so much more than Jess's, and I think the show did really, really well carrying itself when Zoe wasn't there. So I loved seeing this season though, especially considering it all revolved around Cece and Schmidt, and it just was a great season overall. The third TV show I watched this month was Dash and Lily, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. Dash and Lily was the cutesy Christmas romance story that I didn't know I needed, and yet it was beautiful. I have never read the book of Dash and Lily, and I don't really intend to read the book. You guys know, I think some contemporaries are better seen, not read, and this one was beautiful. It was cutesy, it was Christmassy, the characters were fantastic, the storyline was great, the way the episodes were woven in with each other was amazing. I loved everything despite how super cliche it was, and it made me really, really want to go back to New York for Christmas. Fourth TV show I watched this month was season 1 of Cursed, which I ended up giving a 3 out of 5 stars. So I started watching this months ago. I mean months ago. Like, I think, when did the show come out? July? August? I started watching it when it came out. And it's not great. So it's based on a book, sort of, and the book was written by the same people who created the show, but the book and the show are 2 completely different entities. And I struggled with the show. I really struggled with it. I found it really slow at times, and the characters were really uneven. Like, there was a lot going on in the story. It's definitely not my favorite Arthurian adaptation of all time, but it's not horrible, or at least it's not as horrible as I thought it was when I first started watching it. By the end of the season, it did get a lot more watchable, and I was sort of pulled into it a bit more. I think the thing I struggled the most with was Catherine Langford as Nimue. I just don't think she carried that role particularly well. I think that she was the weakest of everyone for me, which made it really hard to watch a show that was completely about her. But in saying that, like, if they did make a second season, I would probably watch it because I am curious to see where things would go moving forward. I think they've actually now hit a point where things would be interesting, but everything else was sort of just a lead up, and I was kind of sitting there going, but is the story gonna start or not? Fifth TV show I watched this month was season 2 of Jessie, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. Jessie is the Disney Channel sitcom which follows the main character of Jessie, who moves to New York and becomes a nanny for a group of rich kids. And it's typical Disney. It's a lot of fun. Each episode is hilarious. I still really enjoyed it. I think one of the reasons I like Jessie so much is because the main character, she's not in high school. She's an adult. She's living out of home. She has a lot of responsibilities. She's a working person. And I think for someone like me, it makes it really easy to relate to her because I totally understand a lot of the stuff that she's going through, how she's always talking about how broke she is. I'm just like, oh, girl, same. I totally get you. So I like that aspect of this show in particular. And the last TV show that I watched this month was season 2 of the Frankenstein Chronicles, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. Frankenstein Chronicles was a teen show that I pulled out a couple of months ago, so I finally finished season 2. I did not enjoy this season anywhere near as much as I did the first one. I really struggled with this season. We got mostly all new characters. There were only a few characters that were returning. I found this season to be really slow and incredibly confusing, and I honestly think that they probably could have just done one season of this show and been done with it. I don't think this second season was particularly necessary. Okay, and so now we will move on to the movies that I watched this month. So the first film that I watched was The Dark Knight, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars to. This was a rewatch for me, and I don't love the DC franchise. I don't think it is great, but that is talking more about the DC EU, the DC Extended Universe. The Dark Knight trilogy, I think is what it's called, the Christopher Nolan one, is not terrible, and Dark Knight is arguably the best of those 3 films. So I do enjoy it. I think that Heath Ledger is the Joker. It's one of his most brilliant roles. The Joker has done so well. The whole thing is really dark and like broody, but it's also really long. It's a really, really long film, and there's a lot going on, so who knows. Second film I watched this month was a rewatch, and that was Thor: The Dark World, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I don't hate the Dark World movie the same way so many people do. I think it's not a great film in the MCU. It's definitely like lower on the list for me, but I still think it does a lot for Thor and for Jane's relationship. It obviously introduces the Ether and the Infinity Stones into the MCU properly. Being set in London always helps because I'm a huge London nut, so that's a fun time. But apart from that, it's definitely one of the more forgettable of the MCU movies. I then had another rewatch, and that was Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. This for me is arguably the best of all of the Captain America movies. I think it's fantastically done. The whole reveal of Hydra and the end fight at the Triskelion, the entire thing is brilliantly shot, brilliantly written, brilliantly acted. The characters are fantastic in their roles that they do, so I think this film is definitely like top tier MCU. I then watched my first Christmas movie of this season, which was Holiday, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This was super, super cheesy, very predictable, and yet it was the perfect Christmas film to start off with for the season, so I'm not all that mad. It had some great actors in it, and I really enjoyed watching it. I then rewatched The Guardians of the Galaxy, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoy this film a lot. I think it's so random at times, and if you went into Guardians of the Galaxy and that was like your first introduction to the MCU, you'd be like, sorry, what? So I do think it's a good film, and I do really enjoy it. It's just one that I'm always kind of like, yeah, sure, with whenever I watch it. I then rewatched The Princess Switch, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars. This is not one of the best Christmas movies in my opinion. It's very, very cringy. Vanessa Hudgens' accent is really bad, but it just kind of works. But it is a Christmas film, and I do enjoy myself when I watch it, but it's not one that I go back to again and again. I rewatched Avengers: Age of Ultron, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. Again, I think this is a brilliant Avengers film. The introduction of the Maximoff twins is fantastic and a really great way to very slowly start to introduce new people into the Avengers, and having the new Avengers be sort of born by the end of the movie is really great and definitely bodes well going forwards. I think it's brilliantly done, and rewatching it, there's so much foreshadowing to Endgame and Infinity War. It's not funny. I then rewatched A Christmas Prince, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I would say that the Christmas Prince movies on on Netflix are probably some of my favorite of the Christmas films, because I think that while they are still sort of cheesy, sort of predictable, they're done in such a way that you can't help but love them. The characters are really lovable. The storyline is fantastic for a Christmas film, and I just think there's something really special about those films in particular. This one definitely is one of my absolute favorites. Ninth film I watched this month was another rewatch, and that was Ant-Man, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. Ant-Man is just, it's a great film. Paul Rudd is amazing. The whole cast is hilarious, and the situations that they get themselves in is just really, it makes for a really fun addition to the MCU, which I absolutely love. I then watched the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special on Disney Plus, and I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. So I remember when this got announced and I kind of was like, sorry, you're doing what? And I was like, this can't be good. But then I watched it and it was actually really, really cute. It was surprisingly well written. It was good story, and it just made me happy to watch. So it was unexpected but enjoyable. 11th movie I watched was another rewatch. That was Captain America Civil War. I only gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I struggle a little bit with the Civil War movie simply because it's not a Captain America film, it's another Avengers film. It's Avengers 2.5, and I struggle with that. I know that it's really, really important that Civil War happens so that we can have the Avengers torn apart ready for Infinity War, but I still find it difficult to watch simply because Zemo's plan? I think it's Zemo. His plan relies completely on chance and relies completely on people acting the way he thinks they're going to act, and I find that a bit of a struggle to watch, because I'm sort of like, but what if someone had made a different decision? Overall though, I do think it's a really great film. I think there are a lot of characters in it though, and you sort of get lost a little bit, but overall it's good. It's a great introduction to Spider-Man and Black Panther, and the airport scene is pretty cool. I'll give it that. I then watched the Princess Switch Switched Again, and this one I actually gave 4 out of 5 stars too. So I didn't love the Princess Switch. I thought it wasn't a great film, but the sequel, Switched Again, was actually really, really well done. I don't know what it was about this one. Like, it's still cheesy, it's still incredibly predictable, but it was just better in every way. The story was better. I don't even know how to describe it, but everything about the sequel was better. And there was an amazing cameo at the end of the film that I was not expecting to see, that I just fell in love with. I was like, oh, yeah, it was a great time. I then rewatched Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, which was incredibly unexpected. It was a Friday night. I really needed to watch I wanted to watch a film, and I was like, what should I watch? And I couldn't make a decision. And then I went on to Stan, and Stan is not known for its great film selection, and I never watch movies on Stan. I watch TV shows pretty much exclusively, but this one came up and I went, yeah, alright. So I watched Indiana Jones, the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it's a great film. It's really, really good, but Big Bang Theory has ruined the movie for me because it correctly pointed out that Indiana Jones actually has no bearing on the outcome of the story. The Nazis were going to find the Ark and open it and die regardless of if Indiana Jones was there or not. So that makes it a little hard, but like for its time and the story that you got, it actually is really, really well done, and it's a great time. I then rewatched A Christmas Prince, The Royal Wedding, and gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. This is the sequel, obviously, to A Christmas Prince, and I really enjoyed this one. It's cheesy, it's predictable, but it's the perfect Christmas film. And there's actually a lot of talk about like politics in this film and bringing Aldovia into the 21st century, and a lot of things that I think were really interesting to introduce in a Christmas film. And overall, I just really loved it. And then the 15th and final film that I watched this month was A Christmas Prince, The Royal Baby, and I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. So I'd never seen The Royal Baby before, and I watched the film and got more stressed than I should have, considering it was a cheesy Christmas film. It was cheesy, but it wasn't predictable. Like, I didn't guess the like bad guy in it. I actually didn't guess, and I was like, when it got revealed, I just kind of went, sorry, what? But I spent the whole reveal just yelling at them, being like, people, you can discuss this after you sign the treaty. It became a whole thing. But yeah, I really loved this one. I thought it was a really perfect end to the trilogy and a real highlight for a real highlight for Netflix for their Christmas film collection. And there you go. That is all of the TV shows and the movies that I watched in the month of November. November. Now, this is normally the point of the video where I would pull down my tin and pull out a show. However, I have made the decision that I don't want to do that for this month, because what I want to do instead is I really want to try and finish all of the TV shows that I am currently watching so that I can start 2021 off on a fresh slate. I don't know if that's gonna happen because there's quite a few of them. So I have to finish New Girl. I have to finish seasons 6 and 7. So I have 28 episodes to go. I have to finish Jessie, seasons 3 and 4. So I have 47 episodes to go. I have to finish The Borgias, seasons 2 and 3. So I have 20 episodes to go. And I have to finish Star Wars The Clone Wars. I have 89 episodes of that because I've got season 3 to 7, and I think you'll know how I feel about Star Wars Clone Wars, so I'm very nervous about that one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comment section below what you watched in the month of November, because I would absolutely love to know. If you like this video, be sure to give it a huge thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing. Stay random. Bye.